The Hindu Kush Mountains stretched endlessly before Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves, their jagged peaks cutting into the pre-dawn sky like broken teeth. She lay motionless among the rocks, her ghillie suit blending perfectly with the surrounding terrain. For 6 hours, she hadn't moved more than an inch. Her breathing was so controlled, so imperceptible that a goat had wandered within arm's reach an hour ago, completely oblivious to the predator in its midst. Through her Schmidt and Bender scope, the Taliban compound sprawled 1,000 meters below. Maya had memorized every detail: the rusted metal gate, the courtyard where fighters gathered for morning prayers, the guard tower where sentries changed shifts every 2 hours. She'd watched the patterns, counted the personnel, identified the high-value target, Commander Rashid, a bomb maker responsible for 17 coalition deaths in the past 3 months. The wind shifted. Maya adjusted her calculations automatically, muscle memory from 1,000 kills. Windage, 2 clicks right. Elevation, perfect. She slowed her heartbeat through sheer will, a trick she'd learned from an old Marine scout sniper at Quantico. Between heartbeats, the world became crystal clear. Commander Rashid emerged from the main building, surrounded by 4 bodyguards, too many witnesses. Maya waited. Patience was her religion. Her radio crackled. "Phantom 6, this is Reaper 1. We're in position for breach. Confirm Overwatch status." Lieutenant Morrison's voice carried the tension of a man about to lead his Marines into combat. Maya's finger hovered over the transmit button. She could see everything Morrison couldn't: the sniper nest on the eastern wall, the technical vehicle hidden behind the compound, the reinforcements staged 200 meters south. One transmission and she could save lives, make the breach easier. She remained silent. Her scope never wavered from Rashid. The bodyguards dispersed, one to check the perimeter, another to the guard tower, 2 into the building. Rashid stood alone in the courtyard, lighting a cigarette. The morning sun glinted off his watch, the same watch he'd worn in surveillance photos taken before he'd sent suicide bombers into a Kabul marketplace. Maya exhaled half a breath and held it. The crosshairs settled on Rashid's chest. The world condensed to this single moment: the pressure of the trigger, the whisper of wind, the distance between justice and a man who would never see it coming. She squeezed. The rifle bucked. The suppressor reduced the sound to a sharp cough that echoed off the rocks. 1,000 meters away, Commander Rashid collapsed mid-drag, his cigarette falling from lifeless fingers. Shots fired at the compound. Morrison's voice exploded over the radio. "Phantom 6, what's your status? Did you take that shot?" Maya was already breaking down her position. Rifle disassembled and stowed in 90 seconds. Ghillie suit rolled and packed. She moved like smoke through the rocks, taking a route she'd mapped during her approach 12 hours earlier. Behind her, she could hear Morrison's Marines breaching the compound, meeting far less resistance now that their leader was dead. "Phantom 6, respond. We need confirmation on sniper activity." The radio remained on her belt, ignored. Maya climbed higher into the mountains, putting distance between herself and the operation. She'd rendezvous with the extraction team at the alternate LZ, same as always. Alone. 3 hours later, forward operating Base Wolverine buzzed with the controlled chaos of a successful mission. Marines unloaded from Humvees, medics treated minor wounds, and intelligence officers clustered around laptops reviewing helmet cam footage. Maya slipped in through the motor pool, unnoticed and unbothered, exactly how she preferred it. She'd almost made it to her tent when Captain Daniels intercepted her. "Reeves, my office now." Captain Marcus Daniels was a lifer, 20 years in the Corps, 3 combat deployments, and a reputation for running the tightest reconnaissance unit in Regional Command East. His office was a converted shipping container with a desk, 2 chairs, and a map of Afghanistan covered in red pins marking insurgent activity. Maya stood at attention, her face impassive. Daniels circled his desk, arms crossed. "You took the shot." Yes, sir. Without confirming with Morrison, without reporting target acquisition, without coordinating with the ground team. The target presented himself. I eliminated the threat, sir. You went dark for 3 hours, Daniel's voice rose. Morrison thought you were compromised. We almost sent a QRF to extract you. I wasn't compromised. I extracted via the planned alternate route. Daniel slammed his hand on the desk. You can't keep operating like a ghost, Reeves. This is a team. When Morrison calls, you answer. When I ask for a sitrep, you provide one. That's how we keep people alive out there. Maya's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Her eyes fixed on a point just over Daniel's shoulder, a technique for enduring lectures without truly hearing them. I've read your file, Daniels continued, his voice dropping. I know about Rachel Kim. I know what happened in Helmand Province. I'm sorry for your loss. Permission to speak freely, sir. Daniels nodded. My loss has nothing to do with my performance. I've eliminated 43 high-value targets in 18 months, 0 civilian casualties, 0 mission failures. I work better alone because I don't rely on compromised radios, confused coordinates, or friendly fire from people who can't tell enemy from ally at 800 meters. Her voice was ice. I trust my rifle, my training, and my instincts, nothing else. That's exactly the problem, Daniel said quietly. You don't trust your team, and one day, Reeves, that's going to get someone killed. Maybe you, maybe someone counting on you to answer when they call. Silence filled the container. Outside, someone shouted coordinates for a supply drop. A generator hummed in the distance. You're the best sniper I've ever seen, Daniels admitted. But being the best doesn't mean a damn thing if you're not willing to be part of something bigger than yourself. He sat on the edge of his desk. I'm assigning you to a deep recon op. 5 days in the mountains, small team. And Reeves, this time you're staying connected. Dismissed. Maya saluted and left without another word. Back in her tent, she cleaned her rifle with methodical precision, each movement practiced and perfect. On the small shelf above her cot sat a single photograph. 2 women in Marine uniforms, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. One of them was Maya, younger, her smile genuine. The other was Rachel Kim. Maya touched the photo briefly, then turned away. Outside, the sun set over the mountains, painting them in shades of blood and shadow. Somewhere out there, new missions waited, new targets, new reasons to stay alone. She preferred it that way. Or so she told herself. The briefing room at FOB Wolverine was cramped, smelling of stale coffee and the accumulated sweat of too many bodies in too small a space. Lieutenant Jake Torres stood at the front, his desert camouflage still dusty from the morning patrol. Behind him, a satellite image of the Hindu Kush mountain range glowed on a mounted screen, red circles marking known insurgent routes. Maya sat in the back corner, arms crossed, studying the men she'd be working with. She'd made it a habit to memorize faces, identify weaknesses, assess who would slow her down. Gentlemen and Sergeant Reeves, Torres nodded in her direction. We've been handed Operation Silent Guardian. Our target is Ahmed Shah Massoud, codename The Shepherd. Intelligence suggests he's coordinating a major offensive against coalition forces across 3 provinces. Torres clicked a remote, and the screen changed to a grainy photograph of a bearded man in traditional Afghan dress, his eyes cold and calculating even through the pixelated image. The Shepherd isn't just another warlord. He's a tactician. Former mujahideen who fought the Soviets, knows these mountains better than we know our own backyards. He's responsible for coordinating the attacks that killed 37 coalition personnel in the last 6 months alone. Sergeant Mike Hicks, a barrel-chested man with a Georgia drawl, whistled low. And we're going after him with a 5-man team. 4-man team, Torres corrected, glancing at Maya, plus our sniper element. The distinction wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Maya wasn't being counted as part of the team, she was an attachment, a tool to be utilized. She didn't care, Tools didn't have to trust anyone. Torres continued, "Our mission isn't to engage. We're deep recon. We track the Shepherd's movements, identify his command structure, and when we have solid coordinates, we call in an airstrike. 5 days, maybe 6 if the weather doesn't cooperate. We insert here." He pointed to a valley 30 kilometers from the Pakistani border, and track his known routes through the mountain passes. Corporal Danny Davis, barely 22 with a baby face that made him look even younger, raised his hand. "Sir, what about exfil? That's deep in Indian country. No roads, limited LZ options." "We have 3 designated extraction points," Torres said, pulling up another map. "Primary is here, secondary here, emergency here. We travel light, stay invisible, and keep moving. Questions?" Specialist Carlos Martinez, the team's communications expert, leaned forward. "Rules of engagement, sir. Defensive only unless directly threatened. Our job is to observe and report. The Shepherd dies by Hellfire missile, not by us announcing our presence with a gunfight." Tor's eyes found Maya again. "Which brings me to communication protocols. Every 2 hours we check in with base. Every team member confirms status. No exceptions." Maya's expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Torres saw it. "Something to add, Sergeant Reeves?" All eyes turned to her. Maya uncrossed her arms and stood, moving to the front of the room with a predator's grace. "Radio chatter gets people killed, Lieutenant. Every transmission is a potential compromise. The enemy has scanning equipment, direction finders. You want to announce our position every 2 hours." "I want to maintain unit cohesion," Torres shot back. "I want to know my people are alive and where they are. That's non-negotiable." "What's non-negotiable is mission success," Maya countered. "I've operated in these mountains for 18 months. I know how insurgents hunt. They're patient. They listen. 1 intercepted transmission and we'll have 200 fighters converging on our position." Torres stepped closer, his voice firm but controlled. "I've read your file, Reeves. Impressive kill count. But I've also read the after-action reports. 3 separate commanders requested you be reassigned because you operate outside the chain of command. Because you go dark when your team needs you most." The room went silent. Even the ever-present hum of the base generators seemed to fade. Maya's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, which somehow made it more dangerous. "Those commanders are alive because I was watching their backs when they couldn't watch their own. I've pulled more teams out of ambushes than you've been on missions, Lieutenant." "Maybe so," Torres said, not backing down an inch. "But on my team we communicate, we coordinate, we trust each other. If you can't do that, tell me now and I'll request another sniper." The challenge hung in the air like gunsmoke. Hicks shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Martinez suddenly found his notepad fascinating. Davis watched the confrontation with wide eyes, sensing he was witnessing something significant. Maya stared at Torres for a long moment. She could see the determination in his eyes, the absolute conviction that his way was the right way. She'd seen that look before, in the eyes of officers who thought they understood combat, who believed that doctrine and procedure would keep their Marines alive. Rachel had believed that too, right up until friendly artillery turned her into a memory and a photograph. "I'll do the mission," Maya finally said. "But when things go sideways, and they will, don't expect me to wait for permission to save your lives." "Fair enough," Torres replied. "But when I call for you, you answer, that's the deal." Maya nodded once curtly and returned to her corner. Torres turned back to the screen, but the tension remained thick. "We insert at 400 tomorrow. Hicks, you're on point. Martinez handles comms and drone coordination. Davis, you're our medic and secondary rifleman. Reeves maintains overwatch and long-range reconnaissance." He paused. "Pack light, 70-pound max load. We're moving fast through rough terrain." "What about intel updates?" Hicks asked. "If the Shepherd changes routes?" "Martinez will monitor drone feeds when we have satellite windows. Otherwise, we're self-sufficient. Tors looked at each team member in turn. I need everyone sharp. This isn't a direct action raid, we're ghosts out there. The shepherd can't know we exist until the Hellfire turns his convoy into a crater. As the briefing concluded, the team gathered their materials and filed out. Maya was the last to leave, deliberately avoiding small talk. She was halfway down the corridor when she heard footsteps behind her. Sergeant Reeves. She turned to find Davis jogging to catch up, his expression earnest and slightly nervous. "Ma'am, I just wanted to say, I've heard the stories about you, about the impossible shots you've made. It's an honor to be working with you." Maya studied the young corporal. He reminded her painfully of Rachel, that same idealism, that same belief that skill and courage were enough to survive in this grinder of a war. "Don't get too excited, Corporal," she said flatly. "I'm there to complete the mission, not make friends." Davis's smile faltered but didn't disappear entirely. "Understood, ma'am. Still, it's good to have Phantom 6 watching our backs." Maya walked away without responding, but his words echoed in her mind. Phantom 6. The call sign Rachel had given her, meant as a compliment, the invisible guardian, the sixth sense that kept the team alive. Now it felt like a curse, a reminder of what happened when she'd failed to live up to that name. Back in her tent, Maya began her pre-mission ritual. She field-stripped her M40A5, inspecting each component with obsessive attention. The barrel, the bolt, the trigger assembly, each piece was cleaned, oiled, and reassembled with reverent care. This rifle was the only thing she truly trusted. Outside, the base prepared for the night. Guard shifts changed. Generators rumbled. Somewhere, a radio played country music too low to identify the song. In 14 hours, she'd be in those mountains again, with a team she didn't trust, led by a lieutenant who didn't understand that communication could kill as easily as a bullet. Maya pulled out her gear and began packing. 70 pounds including rifle, ammunition, water, rations, and survival equipment. She'd done missions with more and missions with less. The weight didn't matter. What mattered was coming back alone. It was always safer that way. The Black Hawk's rotors carved through the pre-dawn darkness, the rhythmic thump-thump-thump vibrating through Maya's bones. She sat wedged between Hicks and the aircraft's gunner, her rifle case vertical between her knees, eyes closed but fully alert. This was her meditation, the calm before insertion, when the familiar fear transformed into cold, operational focus. Across from her, Tors studied a laminated map with a red lens flashlight, tracing their route for the 100th time. Martinez checked his communications gear, testing frequencies and encryption codes. Davis fidgeted with his medical kit, reorganizing supplies that didn't need reorganizing, the nervous energy of a young Marine on his third deployment but first deep recon mission. 5 minutes, the crew chief shouted over the rotor noise. Maya opened her eyes. Below, the Hindu Kush mountains materialized from the darkness, their peaks crowned with snow that glowed faintly in the starlight. Beautiful and lethal, like everything in Afghanistan. The valley where they'd insert was a black void between towering ridges, invisible to anyone who didn't know exactly where to look. The perfect place to disappear. The Black Hawk descended fast, combat insertion style, dropping altitude in stomach-lurching seconds to minimize exposure. The pilots were experts, skimming ridgelines so close Maya could see individual rocks in the aircraft's lights. Then the lights cut out, and they were flying blind, night vision and instruments guiding them into the mouth of the valley. 30 seconds. The team moved with practiced efficiency. Hicks positioned himself at the door, rifle ready. Martinez secured his pack. Davis gripped his weapon, knuckles white. Maya assembled her rifle with swift, economical movements, barrel, stock, scope, magazine. 15 seconds, fully operational. The Black Hawk flared hard, hovering 3 feet above a small clearing. Go, go, go. They dropped into the darkness one by one. Maya was last out, landing in a crouch, rifle up and scanning her sector. The helicopter's downdraft whipped dust and loose stones into a stinging cloud, and then the aircraft was climbing, banking hard, its sound fading rapidly as it disappeared back toward Pakistan. Silence crashed over them like a wave. Tor's hand signaled, "Security perimeter 5 minutes." The team spread out, each Marine facing outward, listening to the night. Maya had already moved 20 meters upslope, finding elevated ground instinctively. Through her night vision scope, the valley revealed itself, rocky terrain broken by sparse vegetation, ancient goat trails zigzagging up the slopes, and in the distance, the darker shadows that marked cave systems where insurgents cached weapons and waited out coalition patrols. Her radio crackled softly. "Phantom 6, confirm position." Maya keyed her mic once, a single click. Acknowledged but no words. Tors would have to accept that. After the security halt, they began moving. Hicks took point, using terrain features and the faint starlight to navigate. Tors followed, then Martinez and Davis. Maya drifted 200 meters to their right flank, maintaining parallel course but operating independently, her natural state. The terrain was brutal, loose scree that shifted underfoot, hidden crevices that could snap an ankle, and altitude that made every breath feel inadequate. The team moved slowly, professionally, but Maya could hear them. The scuff of boots, the clink of equipment, the occasional whispered correction of course. Sounds that would carry in these mountains, announcing their presence to anyone listening. She moved in silence, a ghost among ghosts. 2 hours into the patrol, Maya spotted movement. She froze mid-step, becoming part of the landscape. Through her scope, 400 meters ahead on an intersecting ridge, 4 fighters moved in single file. Taliban, almost certainly, AK-47 slung across their backs, night vision gear visible on at least 2 of them. A patrol or possibly sentries rotating positions. Maya tracked them, calculating. They were on a collision course with Tor's team. 30 minutes, maybe less, before the 2 groups would be in visual contact. She keyed her radio. "Phantom 6. 4 enemy, you're 11 o'clock, 400 meters, patrol pattern moving south." Tor's response was immediate. "Can you confirm weapons and intent?" "Armed with AKs. 2 have NVGs. They're following the ridge trail toward your position." A pause. Maya could imagine Tors weighing options: retreat and lose time, hold position and risk detection, or engage and compromise the entire mission. "Can you interdict without alerting the valley?" Maya was already moving, scrambling higher to find an angle. The insurgents were following a predictable path, pausing occasionally to scan the valley floor. Professionals, but not cautious enough. They didn't expect threats from above. She found her position, a cluster of boulders that provided cover and a clear line of sight. Range, 380 meters. Wind, negligible. Targets, moving slowly, bunched up enough for rapid engagement. Maya settled into her rifle, controlling her breathing. The lead fighter paused to light a cigarette, fatal mistake. The cigarette's glow would ruin his night vision, make him a perfect reference point. She centered her crosshairs on the second fighter in line, the one with the radio on his back. "Take out communications first." Her finger caressed the trigger with the gentleness of a lover. The suppressed rifle coughed. The fighter with the radio collapsed without a sound. Maya cycled the bolt, shifted aim. The third fighter turned, confused, and caught her second bullet in the chest. 2 down in 3 seconds. The leader dropped his cigarette and unslung his weapon, shouting in Pashto. Maya's third shot silenced him permanently. The fourth fighter ran, pure panic, sprinting down the trail away from the team's position. Maya tracked him calmly, leading his movement, and squeezed. He tumbled forward and lay still. 4 shots, 4 kills. Elapsed time, 11 seconds. "Threat eliminated," Maya transmitted. "Path clear." "Phantom 6, what's your ammunition status?" Tors asked. "Sufficient." "That's not what I asked." Maya almost smiled. 4 rounds expended. I carry 120. Silence on the radio then. Good shooting, Reeves, thank you. Maya didn't respond. She was already repositioning, moving to a new location because even suppressed rifle fire created signatures, sound deflection, possible muzzle flash, ground disturbance. She'd learned long ago, never stay where you've killed. The team continued through the night, covering 8 kilometers before Tors called for a halt. They'd reached a defensive position, a natural depression surrounded by rocks that provided cover and concealment. No fires, no lights, just cold rations eaten in darkness. Maya positioned herself on the high ground 30 meters from the others, observing while they set up camp. She could hear their low conversations, the camaraderie of men who'd trained together, trusted each other. It was foreign to her now, like a language she'd once spoken but had forgotten. She was chewing an energy bar when she sensed movement. Davis appeared out of the darkness, moving with exaggerated quiet that actually made him louder. "Ma'am, mind if I sit?" Maya gestured to a rock. The kid was persistent, she'd give him that. Davis settled down, produced his own ration, and ate in silence for a moment. Maya waited. Young Marines never approached senior enlisted without a reason. "Those shots earlier," Davis finally said. 4 targets moving at night. I've never seen anything like it." "You were watching?" "Through the NVGs, yeah. Lieutenant had us hold position. We saw them drop." Davis shook his head. "My instructors at sniper school said shots like that were movie stuff, impossible in real combat conditions." "Your instructors were teaching you not to take stupid risks," Maya said. "They were right. What I did was calculated, necessary, and I've done it enough times to know my success probability." "How many times?" "Enough." Davis was quiet again, then asked the question Maya knew was coming. "Why do they call you Phantom 6? Maya stared into the darkness, seeing nothing and everything. "Because I'm the 6th member of a team that doesn't exist anymore." "What happened to them?" The question hung in the cold mountain air. Maya could have shut him down, walked away, maintained her walls. Instead, she found herself answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "They died because I gave wrong coordinates over a compromised radio. Friendly artillery strike. My team was gone in 30 seconds. She turned to look at Davis, her eyes hard. "That's why I don't trust radios, Corporal. That's why I work alone. Because the only person I can guarantee won't get you killed is myself." Davis processed this, his young face troubled. "But you saved us tonight. You used the radio, called in the enemy position. You worked with the team." "I eliminated a threat to mission success," Maya corrected. "That's different." "Is it?" Before Maya could respond, Tor's voice carried softly through the darkness. "Davis, get some sleep. We move in 4 hours." The corporal stood, shouldered his rifle. "For what it's worth, ma'am, I'm glad you're watching our backs, Phantom 6 or not." He disappeared back toward the others. Maya remained on her perch, the mountains vast and indifferent around her. Below, the team settled into watch rotations, trusting each other enough to sleep while their brothers kept guard. Maya wouldn't sleep. She never did on missions. Sleep required trust, and trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. The invisible wall between her and the team remained, solid as the mountains themselves. But for the first time in 3 years, she wondered if that wall was keeping her safe or simply keeping her alone. Conti Day 4 in the mountains, and they'd become ghosts. Tor's team moved through the Hindu Kush like wind through stone, silent, invisible, leaving no trace. They'd tracked the Shepherd's courier network through 3 villages, mapped supply routes, and identified 2 weapons caches. The mission was textbook perfect. Maya should have known better. Perfect missions didn't exist in Afghanistan. She was 800 meters ahead of the team, glassing a narrow valley through her scope. The valley was a natural choke point, steep walls on both sides, a dry riverbed running through the center, limited exit routes. Every tactical instinct she possessed screamed danger, but it was also the only route that kept them on the shepherd's trail. Phantom 6, what's your assessment? Tor's voice crackled through her earpiece. Maya studied the terrain methodically. The western ridge showed scraped rock, recent disturbance. The eastern slope had dead vegetation in an unnatural pattern. Her gut churned with recognition. I don't like it, she transmitted. Too many perfect ambush positions. Recommend we bypass, add 6 hours to the route. A pause. Negative. Drone intel shows the shepherd's convoy moving through this valley in 90 minutes. If we bypass, we lose our shot at coordinates. Lieutenant, I hear your concerns, Reeves, but we didn't come this far to lose him now. We move fast, stay tight, and get through before any potential hostiles arrive. Maya's jaw clenched. This was why she worked alone. Leaders who prioritized mission over survival, who believed speed and aggression could overcome bad terrain. Your call, sir, she said flatly. I'll maintain overwatch from the North Ridge. She was already moving, climbing to higher ground where she could cover the valley's length. Below, Torres led his team into the choke point. Hicks on point, Martinez monitoring communications, Davis bringing up the rear. They moved professionally, weapons ready, spacing good. It wouldn't matter. Maya reached her position and set up rapidly, rifle on bipod, spare magazines laid out, range card mentally calculated for every rock and crevice below. Through her scope, she tracked the team's progress. 300 meters into the valley, 400, 500. Then she saw it, sunlight glinting off metal on the eastern ridge. Scope, weapon, spotter position. Contact east, she shouted into her radio, but the words were swallowed by an eruption of gunfire. The valley exploded into chaos. Muzzle flashes blossomed from both ridges, a coordinated L-shaped ambush with interlocking fields of fire. At least 20 fighters, possibly more. PKM machine guns raked the valley floor, their distinctive sound echoing off the stone walls. RPGs streaked down, exploding in geysers of rock and dust. Tor's team dove for cover behind scattered boulders, returning fire, but they were catastrophically exposed. The ambush had been perfectly laid, perfectly timed. Maya was already engaging. Her first shot took the PKM gunner on the eastern ridge, head shot at 780 meters. Second shot eliminated his assistant. She shifted to the western ridge, found another gunner squeezed. The weapon went silent. Phantom 6, we need immediate support. Tor's voice was barely audible over the gunfire. Multiple hostiles, both ridges. We're pinned. Maya worked her rifle like a surgeon with a scalpel. Identify target, compensate for range and wind, fire, cycle bolt, acquire next target. 4 down. 5. 6. But for every insurgent she dropped, another appeared. They had the high ground, the numbers, and the initiative. An RPG detonated near Hicks's position, and through her scope Maya saw him stumble, blood streaming from his face. Martinez dragged him behind a larger rock, still firing his M4 one-handed. We need to move, Torres shouted. Davis, cover right. Hicks, can you move? Maya shifted her aim to the eastern ridge, targeting the RPG teams. Her 7th shot killed a fighter loading another rocket. Her 8th took down his partner, but there were too many, spread too wide, and her ammunition wasn't infinite. Then her radio filled with static, harsh, pulsing interference that made her rip the earpiece out momentarily. Jamming. Someone down there had military-grade electronic warfare equipment. The ambush wasn't random. It was planned, prepared, professional. They'd known the team was coming. Maya jammed the earpiece back in, fighting through the static. EV fire, need extract, Tor's voice cut in and out. Assaultees moving too. She watched helplessly as insurgents maneuvered down the slopes, closing the trap. The team was being surrounded, pushed toward the southern end of the valley where the walls narrowed even further. Maya eliminated 2 more fighters descending the eastern slope, but for everyone she killed, 2 more advanced. Her scope found Davis, the young corporal firing controlled bursts, his face pale but determined. He was covering Martinez's attempt to treat Hicks's head wound. An insurgent appeared on a ledge directly above them, RPG shouldered. Maya's shot took him in the chest. The RPG tumbled from his hands and detonated against the cliff face, showering the area with shrapnel. But not before she saw Davis stumble backward, hand clutching his side, red spreading across his uniform. "Davis is hit," she heard Hicks yell through the static. "Man down, man down." Torres was screaming coordinates into his radio, calling for air support, but Maya knew what the static meant. The jamming was blocking everything. No communications with base, no close air support, no QRF coming to save them. They were alone. Maya's scope tracked Davis as Martinez hauled him behind cover. Even from 800 meters, she could see the blood. Gut shot, maybe liver. Fatal without immediate medical intervention. Fatal maybe even with it. The young corporal who'd asked about her call sign, who'd said he was honored to work with her, who reminded her painfully of Rachel. "Dying." "Phantom 6, Tor's voice cut through the static, desperate. "We need covering fire on the east ridge. Coordinates," static swallowed the rest. Maya fired again. Her magazine ran dry and she reloaded with mechanical speed. 9 kills, 10, 11, but it wasn't enough. An RPG struck near Tor's position, and she watched the team break and run, tactical retreat toward a dark opening in the southern cliff face. Cave entrance. Martinez carried Davis in a fireman's carry, the corporal's arms dangling lifelessly. Hicks staggered alongside, one hand pressed to his bleeding face. Torres provided covering fire, walking backward magazine after magazine. Phantom 6 were moving into the cave system. Torres' transmission was barely comprehensible through the jamming. "Enemy in pursuit. Need, static. Coordinates for extract, more static. Respond." Maya fired at the insurgents pursuing them into the cave. 2 dropped. 3. But at least a dozen fighters poured into the entrance after the team. Then they were gone, swallowed by the mountain. Maya kept her scope on the cave entrance, willing them to reappear, knowing they wouldn't. The static on her radio continued its maddening pulse. She tried every frequency, every encryption code. Nothing. The valley fell silent except for the moans of wounded insurgents and the distant sound of rocks settling. Smoke drifted from impact craters. Bodies lay scattered on both ridges, her work, but not enough. Never enough. Maya's hands trembled on her rifle, something that hadn't happened in 3 years. Davis's blood-soaked uniform filled her mind. Martinez's desperate face as he'd carried the kid to cover. Hicks's head wound. Tor's voice cutting out mid-transmission. Her team, trapped, pursued, dying. And she was 800 meters away, helpless. Through her scope, she watched insurgent reinforcements arriving at the valley, 30 more fighters, maybe 40. They organized quickly, some securing the valley floor, others moving toward the cave entrance in tactical formations. Professional, coordinated, prepared. This hadn't been a chance encounter. The shepherd had known they were coming, had laid the perfect trap, and her team had walked right into it. Maya scanned the ridgeline and spotted what she'd missed before, a technical vehicle hidden in a crevice, its bed equipped with communications equipment. The jamming source. 1 shot, that's all it would take to destroy it, restore communications. But the moment she fired, every insurgent in that valley would know her position. 40-plus fighters with her isolated, alone, with limited ammunition and no backup. The old Maya, the one who worked alone, who trusted only herself, would have displaced immediately, found a hide position, waited for the team to extract themselves or die trying. Survival first, always. Her finger rested on the trigger, the communications vehicle centered in her crosshairs. Below, another group of insurgents entered the cave, their weapons ready, hunting her team in the darkness. Maya thought of Davis asking about her call sign, of Torres demanding she stay connected, of Hicks's gruff Georgia drawl and Martinez's quiet competence, of Rachel's voice, 3 years dead but still echoing, "You're the sixth sense that keeps us alive, Maya." She squeezed the trigger. The communications vehicle exploded in a ball of orange flame, and 40 insurgents turned their attention to the ridge where the shot had originated. The communications vehicle burned like a beacon, black smoke spiraling into the Afghan sky. Maya didn't wait to admire her work. She was already moving, scrambling down the reverse slope as bullets began snapping through the air where she'd been positioned seconds before. 40-plus insurgents were converging on her location, and she just announced her presence like a flare in the darkness. She ran in a controlled sprint, her 70-pound pack threatening to throw her off balance on the loose scree. Behind her, she heard shouting in Pashto, commands, coordinates, the organized chaos of fighters vectoring toward a target. These weren't farmers with AKs. These were trained soldiers, and they were hunting her. Maya dove behind a rock outcropping as automatic fire chewed into the slope above her. PKM rounds, heavy caliber, close enough that she felt the shock waves. She popped up, acquired 2 targets rushing up the slope, fired twice. Both dropped. She displaced immediately, moving laterally across the ridge. Her radio crackled. The jamming was gone, destroyed with the vehicle. But what came through wasn't relief. Trapped multiple hostiles, Martinez's voice, breathless, terrified. Losing too much blood, Hicks slurring. Need immediate extract, coordinates, Torres, fighting to stay calm and failing. Static consumed the rest, but Maya had heard enough. Her team was alive, pinned in the cave system, fighting for survival, without her. She slid into a crevice, pressed her back against stone, and tried to control her breathing. Think, assess, survive. Through a gap in the rocks, she glassed the valley below. Insurgents were organized into 3 groups, one securing the cave entrance, one sweeping the valley floor, one climbing toward her last position. Professional military tactics. The shepherd's personal guard, probably. The shepherd. Maya shifted her scope to the far end of the valley, where the command element would position itself. And there, emerging from a camouflaged hide position she hadn't detected, vehicles. 3 technical trucks with mounted weapons and 1 civilian SUV. A man stepped out of the SUV. Even at 1,200 meters, Maya recognized him from the briefing photos. Gray beard, expensive watch glinting in the sunlight, traditional Pakal hat. Ahmed Shah Massoud, the shepherd himself. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The primary target, the entire reason for this mission. Standing in the open, surrounded by only 4 bodyguards, completely unaware that a U.S. sniper had him in her scope. 1 shot, that's all it would take. Maya's finger moved to the trigger, her training taking over. Range, 1,220 meters. Wind, 3/4 value left to right, 8 knots. Elevation, compensate for uphill angle. Temperature, adjust for thin mountain air. She had the shot, difficult yes, but she'd made harder kills. The shepherd gestured toward the cave entrance, shouting orders. His bodyguards relaxed slightly, focused on the developing battle rather than perimeter security. Perfect conditions. Maya's crosshairs settled on his chest, center mass, guaranteed kill. Her radio erupted with static, then a voice cut through, Davis, the young corporal, his words barely coherent. Can't stop the bleeding, Mama, I'm sorry, tell her I'm sorry. The kid was dying. Gut shot, going into shock, calling for his mother in a cave 800 meters away while enemy fighters hunted him in the darkness. Maya's scope stayed locked on the shepherd. Mission first. Eliminate the target. That's what she was here for. That's what Rachel would have. Rachel. The memory hit her like artillery fire. Helmand Province, 3 years ago. Phantom 6, I've got eyes on the target. Confirm before I call for fire. Rachel's voice, excited, confident. She was spotting while Maya tracked a different high-value target 2 valleys over. "Wait 1," Maya had said, her own scope focused, her own target about to present itself. "I'm engaged." "Maya, this guy's moving. I need to call it in now or we lose him." 30 seconds, Rachel. Let me finish this shot. The target in Maya's scope had been perfect, a bomb maker who'd killed 17 Marines. One shot to eliminate him, validate months of tracking. She took the shot. Clean kill. "Target down," Maya confirmed. "Rachel, send your coordinates." "Static." "Rachel." More static than Rachel's voice, panicked. "They're moving, Maya. I need artillery now. Sending coordinates." Rachel had rattled off the grid coordinates, but Maya had been distracted, reloading, scanning for additional threats. She'd only half heard the numbers. "Fire mission sent," Rachel confirmed. 2 minutes later, Maya heard the shells coming. That distinctive whistle of 155 rounds. She'd smiled, knowing Rachel's target would be eliminated. Then she saw the impacts, not 2 valleys over where Rachel's target was. In Rachel's valley, on Rachel's position. Maya had given the fire direction center the wrong coordinates, transposed 2 numbers. A tiny mistake, a moment of distraction, and friendly fire had killed her best friend. She'd reached Rachel 15 minutes later, found what the artillery had left, enough for a closed casket funeral. Rachel's last words, recorded in Maya's memory like a brand. "Maya, why aren't you answering? I need you, please. Phantom 6, where are you?" Maya's hands shook on her rifle, the first time in 3 years. The shepherd remained in her crosshairs, oblivious to how close he was to death. This was her redemption. Kill the target. Complete the mission. Prove that Rachel's death hadn't broken her, that she could still be the perfect sniper. Her radio crackled again. Tor's voice, desperate, fighting through pain and fear. "Phantom 6, if you can hear this, Davis is critical. We need extract. Cave system, multiple tunnels, hostiles in pursuit. We can't." Gunfire through the radio, shouting, then silence. Maya's scope drifted from the shepherd to the cave entrance, where insurgents continued to pour inside. At least 20 fighters hunting 4 wounded Americans in the darkness. Her team, trapped, dying, calling for her. And she was choosing between them and the mission, again. History repeating itself with cruel precision. The shepherd turned to climb back into his SUV. In 5 seconds he'd be gone. The shot was now or never. Maya's finger caressed the trigger. All the training, all the discipline, all the years of making the hard calls screamed at her to take it, to complete the mission, to be the professional soldier she'd forged herself into. But another voice whispered in her mind, not Rachel's ghost, but Rachel's living memory. The friend who'd given her the call sign Phantom 6, not because Maya was invisible, but because she was the sixth sense, the guardian angel, the one who kept people alive. "You're not a ghost, Maya," Rachel had said once, cleaning weapons after a mission. "You're our lifeline. Phantom 6 means you're there when it matters. When everything goes to hell, you're the one who pulls us through." Maya had failed that test once, had been too focused on her own target, her own mission, to be there when Rachel needed her most. Now she had a choice. Prove she'd learned nothing from that failure by repeating it, or prove that Rachel's faith in her hadn't been misplaced. The shepherd's door closed. The SUV's engine started. Maya lifted her finger from the trigger and let him drive away. She was already running before the vehicles disappeared around the valley's bend, her pack bouncing against her spine, her boots finding purchase on treacherous ground. Every tactical instinct she possessed screamed that this was suicide. One sniper, low on ammunition, racing toward 40 hostile fighters to save a team that might already be dead. But for the first time in 3 years, Maya wasn't thinking about survival. She was thinking about the young corporal who'd said it was an honor to work with her, about Tors, who demanded she stay connected, about Hicks and Martinez, who'd never questioned her presence on the team despite the rumors. About Rachel, who'd believed that Phantom Six meant something more than a ghost who killed from the shadows. Maya keyed her radio as she ran, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. "Any station, this is Phantom Six. I'm coming for you. Hold on." No response, just static and the distant echo of gunfire from inside the cave. But Maya kept running anyway, toward the very place every instinct told her to avoid, toward a team she barely knew, toward a choice that Rachel would have made without hesitation. The invisible wall she'd built around herself for 3 years crumbled with every step. Because being alone had kept her alive, but it had also kept her from being the person Rachel had believed she could be. And Maya was done being a ghost. Maya crested the ridge, lungs burning from the altitude and exertion. Below, the shepherd's convoy wound through a mountain pass, 3 technical trucks and the civilian SUV moving in tactical formation. They were headed toward the Pakistani border, toward sanctuary where American forces couldn't follow. This was her last chance. She dropped into a hide position among the rocks, her rifle finding its familiar place against her shoulder. Through the scope, the convoy materialized in crystal clarity, fighters manning the mounted guns on the technicals, drivers navigating the treacherous road, and in the center SUV, visible through the window, the shepherd himself. Range, 1,340 meters, extreme distance even for her. But the convoy was moving slowly, carefully navigating switchbacks on the narrow mountain road. At the next turn, they'd slow even further. 5 seconds, maybe 6, where the shepherd would be stationary. The perfect shot. Maya calculated wind speed from the dust devils dancing across the valley floor, 12 knots, quartering from the left. She adjusted her scope, 4 clicks windage, 2 elevation. The thin mountain air would carry the bullet differently than sea level. She compensated mentally, adding another half mil to her hold. Her radio crackled, making her flinch. Martinez's voice, ragged with exhaustion and fear. "Davis isn't responding. Lost too much blood, Tors. He's not breathing right." Maya forced herself to focus on the convoy. The lead technical approached the switchback, slowing, turning. "Check his pulse," Tors' voice cut through the static. "Hicks, I need you conscious. Stay with me." The SUV began its turn. Through her scope, Maya could see the shepherd clearly now, his gray beard, his expensive watch, his face calm and unconcerned. He was on his phone, probably coordinating the attack on her team, treating American lives like pieces on a chessboard. 1 shot, 1 dead terrorist, mission accomplished, promotion, medals, validation that she was still the best, that Rachel's death hadn't diminished her abilities. Her finger moved to the trigger. "Phantom Six, if you're out there," Tors' voice broke. "Davis just stopped breathing. Martinez is doing CPR, but we're in a cave, Maya. I can't save him. I can't save any of them without help." He'd used her first name. Tors, the by-the-book lieutenant who demanded communication and cohesion, was begging Phantom Six to remember she was human. Maya's crosshairs settled on the shepherd's chest. "Center mass. Compensate for vehicle movement. Lead the target slightly. Breathe. Hold. Squeeze." The memory flooded back unbidden. The day Rachel died, Maya had arrived at the artillery impact site to find her friend's body armor, shredded and smoking. Rachel's rifle lay 10 feet away, scope shattered. And pinned under a rock, miraculously intact, was Rachel's notebook, the one where she kept her thoughts, observations, and letters home. Maya had opened it with shaking hands. The last entry was dated that morning. "Maya's the best sniper I've ever seen, but she doesn't understand what makes her special. It's not the shots she makes, it's that she's there when people need her most. Phantom Six isn't about being invisible. It's about being the guardian angel who appears when everything falls apart. I hope she remembers that when I'm not around to remind her." Maya had burned that notebook, unable to bear the weight of Rachel's faith in her. but the words had branded themselves into her memory. The shepherd lit a cigarette, exhaling smoke out the window, completely relaxed, completely unaware. "Please," Martinez's voice cracked. "Somebody help us. He's just a kid. He's got a baby sister back home. He showed me pictures. Please, God, somebody." Gunfire echoed through the radio. Shouts in Pashto. The insurgents were closing in on her team's position in the caves. "Contact rear," Torres yelled. "Hicks, can you shoot, Hicks?" "Can't see straight," Hicks slurred. "Concussion, everything's spinning." Maya's finger rested on the trigger, a pound of pressure away from completing her mission. The shepherd would die before he heard the shot. The convoy would scatter. Mission success. Everything she'd trained for, everything she'd sacrificed for, validated in one trigger pull. But Davis would die in a cave, calling for his mother, his baby sister growing up without a brother. Martinez would die trying to save him, his competence and quiet courage meaning nothing against superior numbers. Hicks would die from a head wound, his Georgia drawl silenced forever. Torres would die leading his team, still trying to coordinate, still believing that communication and trust could save them. And Maya would survive, alone, again, having made the professional choice, the tactical choice, the choice that let her complete the mission. The choice that proved Rachel had been wrong about her. Maya's hand steadied on the rifle, her breathing slowed, the world narrowed to the scope, the target, the shot. She saw the shepherd's face clearly now, his features sharp in the magnified optics. This was the man who'd orchestrated the deaths of 37 coalition personnel. This was the architect of terror, the coordinator of ambushes, the leader who'd nearly wiped out her entire team. One shot. Her radio erupted with the sound of Martinez screaming, not words, just the primal sound of a man watching his friend die. Then his voice broken. "Davis is gone. Corporal Danny Davis is KIA. Time of death," a sob. "I don't know the time. I can't, Torres, what do I?" "Keep moving," Torres commanded, his voice thick with grief and desperation. "We honor him by surviving. Move, Marines, move." The shepherd flicked his cigarette out the window. The SUV completed its turn and began accelerating. Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. "You're the sixth sense that keeps us alive, Maya." Rachel's voice, clear as the mountain air. "Phantom 6 means you're there when it matters." Maya closed her eyes, seeing Rachel's smile, hearing her laugh, remembering the friend who'd believed she was more than just a killer in the shadows. "When everything goes to hell, you're the one who pulls us through." The convoy gained speed. The shepherd leaned back in his seat, already thinking about his next operation, his next target, his next victory. Maya opened her eyes and lifted her finger from the trigger. The SUV disappeared around the bend, carrying the shepherd toward the Pakistani border, toward safety, toward freedom. She'd let him go. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Months of tracking, days of dangerous reconnaissance, one team member already dead, and she'd let the primary target escape. Command would want explanations. There would be inquiries, reprimands, possibly the end of her career. She didn't care. Maya was already disassembling her rifle, packing her gear with frantic efficiency. She pulled out her map, traced the route to the cave entrance. 2 kilometers of hostile terrain, probably 20 insurgents still securing the area, and she was low on ammunition. Suicide odds. She'd faced worse. Her radio crackled, Tor's voice barely a whisper. "Phantom 6 last transmission. We're moving deeper into the cave system. 6, no, 7 hostiles in pursuit. No ammunition for sustained fight. If anyone receives this," a pause. "Tell our families we fought well. Tor's out." Maya keyed her mic, her voice steady and clear, no longer the ghost who refused to communicate. "Phantom 6 to Tor's, I hear you, I'm coming. 2 kilometers out. Hold your position if you can. If you can't, run deeper and mark your trail. I will find you." Silence, Then Tor's voice disbelieving, "Phantom 6, confirm you're coming to us. What about the shepherd?" "The shepherd's gone," Maya said, shouldering her pack, checking her remaining magazines. 11 rounds left in my rifle, 40 in my pistol, 51 total to get us all out. It'll be enough. "Maya," Tor's voice cracked, "you'll be outnumbered 20-1. 20-1 assumes they're better than me," Maya said, a grim smile touching her lips. "Rachel always said I was worth a dozen shooters when I stopped pretending to be alone." She was running before Tors could respond, racing down the slope toward the valley floor, toward the cave entrance, toward the team that needed her. Toward the choice Rachel would have made without hesitation. Behind her, the shepherd's convoy disappeared into the distance, mission failure guaranteed. Ahead, 3 Marines fought for their lives in the darkness, hoping that Phantom 6 was more than just a ghost story. Maya ran faster. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't running away from people. She was running toward them. Maya covered the first kilometer in 8 minutes, a reckless sprint across terrain that should have taken 30. Loose scree threatened to send her tumbling with every step, but she'd spent 18 months in these mountains. She knew how to read the ground, where to place her feet, how to use momentum without losing control. She slid to a stop behind a rock outcropping 200 meters from the cave entrance. Her chest heaved, sweat stinging her eyes despite the cold mountain air. Through her scope, she assessed the situation with clinical precision. 12 insurgents visible, 4 guarding the cave entrance with a PKM machine gun, 6 spread across the valley floor in defensive positions, 2 stationed on the eastern ridge with radios, spotters, coordinating the assault inside the cave. Her radio crackled. "Can't hold ammunition critical," Hicks's voice slurred from his head wound. "Pulling back to the waterfall chamber." "Copy," Tors responded. "All stations, rally point is the waterfall. Hicks, how's your vision?" "Seeing double, LT, but I can still shoot straight, I think." Maya keyed her mic while never taking her eyes off the enemy positions. "Tors, Phantom 6, I have eyes on 12 hostiles outside the cave. Give me your exact position and I'll start clearing your path." The silence that followed stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then Tors' voice, filled with something Maya hadn't heard before, hope. "Phantom 6, Maya, you came back." "I never left, Lieutenant. Just took a different route. Now give me your position before those spotters call in more reinforcements." "Approximately 400 meters inside the main tunnel, bearing northeast. We can hear water, underground stream or waterfall. 7 hostiles between us and the entrance, maybe more we haven't seen." Maya studied the cave entrance through her scope. "The spotters on the east ridge are coordinating the assault. I take them out first, blind their command structure. Then I eliminate the entrance guards and draw the valley floor fighters toward my position. That opens a corridor for you to move." "Negative," Tors said firmly. 12-1 odds and you're low on ammunition. We find another way." For the first time in 3 years, Maya smiled. Tors was thinking like a team leader, protecting his people, even the one who'd spent the entire mission operating independently. "Lieutenant, I appreciate the concern, but I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you what I'm about to do. Be ready to move when you hear the shooting stop." "Maya." "Rachel used to say I was worth a dozen shooters when properly motivated," Maya interrupted, her voice soft. "Let's see if she was right. Phantom 6 out." She didn't wait for a response. The spotters died first. Maya's rifle coughed twice, 2 shots, 2 kills at 340 meters. The insurgents on the ridge collapsed without knowing what hit them. Their radios clattered against the rocks, silenced. The cave entrance guards reacted to the shots, scanning the ridgeline but not seeing her position. Maya shifted her aim to the PKM gunner. The heavy machine gun could chew through rock and flesh with equal ease. It had to go. "Breathe, hold, squeeze." The gunner's head snapped back. His assistant gunner dove for the weapon, and Maya killed him before his hands touched the grip. 4 down, 8 rounds remaining in her magazine. The valley floor erupted into chaos. Insurgents scrambled for cover, trying to locate the sniper who was systematically dismantling their position. 2 fighters rushed toward the cave entrance, reinforcements trying to join the assault inside. Maya tracked the lead runner, 500 meters moving fast, weaving between rocks. Difficult shot. She made it anyway. The second fighter dove behind cover. Smart, patient. He'd wait for her to give away her position before moving again. Maya relocated immediately, scrambling 15 meters to a new firing position. From this angle, she could see the fighter's boot protruding from behind his cover. She put a round through his ankle. His scream echoed off the valley walls as he tumbled into the open. Her second shot ended his suffering. 6 down, 4 rounds left in the magazine. Phantom 6, we can hear the shooting, Tors transmitted. Hostiles inside the cave are repositioning. Some are falling back toward the entrance. Good, that means they're scared. Keep them moving away from you. I'll handle the valley. 3 insurgents broke cover simultaneously, rushing toward Maya's last known position with coordinated suppressive fire. They trained together, moved like a unit, professional soldiers. Maya let them come. At 200 meters, she dropped the first. At 150, the second. The third fighter dove behind a boulder, his AK chattering on full automatic, bullets snapping through the air but hitting nothing. Maya's magazine clicked empty. She ejaculated it, slammed in her last rifle magazine. 7 rounds. That's all she had left for the rifle. The insurgent behind the boulder was shouting into his radio, calling for reinforcements. Maya could hear vehicle engines in the distance, more fighters arriving from the Shepherd's convoy positions. She had minutes, maybe less. Tors, how many hostiles still inside with you? Movement sounds like 3, maybe 4. They're holding position at a choke point, narrow passage we have to cross to reach the waterfall chamber. Maya scanned the cave entrance. 2 insurgents remained in the valley, both in hardened positions with good fields of fire. Taking them out would expose her location completely. No choice. She fired, working her rifle with mechanical precision. The first insurgent died reaching for his radio. The second managed to return fire, his bullets sparking off the rocks near Maya's position before her shot punched through his chest. 8 down. But now every surviving fighter knew exactly where she was. Maya abandoned her position as RPG rounds screamed toward her location. The rockets detonated against the hillside, showering her with rock fragments. She rolled into a depression, shielding her rifle with her body as the world exploded around her. When the smoke cleared, she counted 4 technicals racing into the valley, at least 16 fresh fighters, heavily armed, converging on her position. Her radio crackled. Phantom 6, we're hearing vehicles. What's your status? Maya checked her rifle. 3 rounds left. Her pistol held 40 rounds, but pistols were for close range. She'd have to let the enemy get danger close before engaging. Status is complicated, she transmitted, ejecting her rifle's magazine and topping it off with loose rounds from her pocket. But I've faced worse odds. She hadn't actually, but Tors didn't need to know that. The choke point, describe it to me. Narrow passage, maybe 2 meters wide. They've got at least 2 fighters in defensive positions with interlocking fields of fire. We try to push through, we die. Maya closed her eyes, visualizing the cave's interior based on topographic maps and her understanding of Afghan cave systems. Water sound meant lower elevation. Choke point meant natural formation. Defensive positions meant. Tors, how stable is the ceiling at the choke point? Any loose rock, stalactites, obvious structural weaknesses. A pause. Martinez says there's a slab of limestone that looks cracked, maybe 3 meters above the passage. Why? Because I'm about to make some noise out here, and when I do, every hostile inside that cave is going to come running to join the fight outside. That choke point becomes your advantage. You collapse it behind them, trap them on this side of the cave, and you run for the waterfall chamber. How do we collapse it? Grenades. Focus the blast on that cracked slab. Bring the ceiling down and seal the passage. Maya, that's a one-way trip. If we seal that passage, we're trapped deeper in the cave with no way out. You're trapped in there anyway, Maya said calmly. This way, you're trapped alive with time to find an alternate exit. The other way, you're dead in the next 10 minutes. Silence. Then, how do we know there is an alternate exit? You hear water. Water flows out somewhere. Find where it goes, follow it. It's your only shot. The technicals were deploying fighters now. 3-man teams moving with tactical precision, closing on Maya's position in a coordinated assault. When I start shooting, Maya said, you count to 30, then blow that ceiling. After that, you're on your own until I can reach you. Understood? Maya, Tor's voice caught. Thank you for coming back. That's what Phantom 6 means, Lieutenant. I'm there when it matters. She keyed off the radio and rose from cover, rifle shouldered, accepting that she might not survive the next 5 minutes. But her team would, and for the first time since Rachel's death, that was enough. Maya opened fire. The valley exploded into violence, and somewhere in the darkness of the cave, 3 Marines prepared to bring a mountain down on their enemies' heads, trusting that the ghost who'd operated alone for 3 years would somehow keep them alive. Phantom 6 had finally answered her call sign. And she wasn't done fighting. Maya's first 3 shots dropped 3 fighters before they understood what was happening. She displaced immediately, sprinting 20 meters to new cover as return fire tore through her previous position. Bullets ricocheted off rocks, creating a storm of lead and stone fragments. 15 fighters in the valley now, coordinating their assault with hand signals and radio chatter. They moved like trained soldiers, bounding overwatch, suppressive fire, tactical spacing. Maya was outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of ammunition. Perfect. She'd been underestimated her entire career. Too small, too young, too female. Now these insurgents were making the same mistake, thinking one sniper couldn't hold against 15. They were about to learn differently. Maya fired from behind a boulder, killing the team leader coordinating the assault. The insurgents scattered, losing their organization. She used their confusion, shifting position again, firing twice more. 2 fighters down. Her rifle clicked empty, last magazine gone. She transitioned to her pistol, a smooth motion practiced 10,000 times. 40 rounds, close range only. She'd have to let them get within 50 meters. Inside the cave, she heard the muffled crump of grenades detonating. The ground shook slightly. Tors had collapsed the passage. Phantom 6 ceilings down, Tors transmitted. Hostiles trapped on your side. We're moving to the water source. Copy. How's Hicks? Conscious, vision's clearing, he'll make it. And Martinez. A pause. Carrying Davis. Won't leave him behind. Maya's throat tightened. Davis was gone, but Martinez refused to abandon his brother. That was what real teams did. They brought everyone home. 3 insurgents rushed her position. Maya fired methodically, center mass, double tap next target, 6 rounds, 3 dead. But more were coming. She could hear the vehicles repositioning, commanders shouting orders. They were organizing a final assault, overwhelming her position with sheer numbers. Her radio crackled with a new voice-based command. Phantom 6, this is Wolverine Actual. We've been tracking your GPS. QRF is inbound, ETA 20 minutes. Can you hold? 20 minutes. Maya checked her ammunition, 34 rounds left. Negative, Wolverine. I need extract in 5 and I need it for 4 personnel, not 1. Phantom 6, Sitrep shows your team as KIA or MIA. Your sitrep is wrong. 3 Marines alive in cave system, 1 KIA we're bringing home. Send the bird to grid. She rattled off coordinates for a flat area near the cave's far side, where the underground stream likely emerged. And tell them to come in hot. LZ will not be secure. Phantom 6, that's not a designated LZ. Terrain analysis shows. I don't care what your analysis shows, Maya shouted, firing 3 more rounds at advancing insurgents. You send that bird to those coordinates in 5 minutes, or 4 Americans die in these mountains. Are we clear? Silence, then crystal clear. Phantom 6, birds launching now, 5 minutes. Maya keyed her radio to Tor's frequency. Lieutenant, you need to move faster. Extraction inbound, far side of the cave. Follow the water, find where it exits and secure an LZ. You've got 5 minutes. We're moving, but Maya, you're on the wrong side of a collapsed tunnel. How do you reach extraction? I'll find a way, just get there. She fired again. The pistol's slide locked back. Empty magazine. She reloaded her last magazine. 17 rounds left in the world. The insurgents were closing. She could hear them calling to each other, coordinating. They knew she was low on ammunition, knew she was alone. Maya made a decision that would have horrified the old her, the Maya who trusted only herself, who survived by staying distant. She sprinted across open ground. Bullets snapped past her head, whipping her hair, so close she felt their heat. An RPG detonated behind her, the blast wave lifting her off her feet and slamming her into rocks. Pain exploded in her ribs, her vision blurred, but she kept moving. She reached the cave's secondary entrance, a crack in the cliff face barely wide enough for a person. The insurgents were 50 meters behind, closing fast. Maya squeezed into the opening, her pack catching on stone. She ripped it free, leaving it behind with her empty rifle. All she had now was her pistol, 17 rounds and pure determination. The cave interior was pitch black. She pulled out her flashlight, knowing the light would make her a target but having no choice. The beam revealed a narrow passage descending sharply, water trickling along the floor. Behind her, insurgents reached the entrance, shouting, firing blind into the darkness. Maya ran deeper, following the water downward, her light bouncing crazily off wet stone walls. She could hear the enemy pursuing, their lights visible behind her. Tors, I'm in the cave system, following water. Where are you? We see light, Martinez's voice. 100 meters ahead, large chamber, stream exits through a crack. Maya burst into the chamber and her light found them. Tors supporting Hicks, whose head wound had stopped bleeding but whose eyes were still unfocused. Martinez cradling Davis's body, the young corporal's face peaceful despite the violence of his death. Outside now, Maya ordered. Hostiles 30 seconds behind me. They squeezed through the crack one by one, Tors first, pulling Hicks through, then Martinez struggling with Davis's weight. Maya provided cover, her pistol aimed at the passage behind them. Insurgents appeared. She fired, 1 down, 2 down. Slide locked back, empty. She followed her team through the crack, just as bullets chewed into the stone where she'd been standing. Outside, the mountain slope fell away steeply to a rocky flat area where an underground stream emerged into daylight. It wasn't a proper landing zone, too small, too rough, surrounded by terrain that would make approach difficult. It was perfect. The Black Hawk appeared over the ridge, flying NOE, nap of the earth, skimming terrain to avoid detection. Door gunners were already firing, suppressing insurgent positions on the surrounding slopes. Go, 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 Maya shouted, firing her last 3 rounds at insurgents emerging from the cave. Martinez ran for the helicopter, Davis's body held tight. Tors and Hicks followed, Hicks stumbling but staying on his feet. Maya was last, her pistol empty, no ammunition left, nothing but her legs and her will. An insurgent appeared on the ridge above the LZ, RPG shouldered, aiming at the helicopter. Maya didn't think. She changed direction mid-sprint, launching herself at a pile of loose rocks. Her boot hit the pile, and the rocks cascaded down the slope, a miniature avalanche that struck the insurgent and sent him tumbling, his RPG firing wild into the sky. She hit the ground hard, rolled, and kept running. Strong hands grabbed her, Tors and Hicks, pulling her into the helicopter. The door gunner fired continuously, brass casings raining down. The Black Hawk lifted, nose down, accelerating away from the mountain as RPG trails streaked past. They were airborne, safe, alive. Maya collapsed against the helicopter's wall, gasping, every part of her body screaming pain. Martinez sat across from her, Davis's body laid out with dignity, the corporal's hands folded across his chest. Tors gripped Maya's shoulder. "You came back. You let the shepherd go and came back for us." Maya looked at him, then at Hicks, then at Martinez and Davis. Her team. The people she'd kept at arm's length, the walls she'd built to protect herself from ever feeling Rachel's loss again. "That's what Phantom 6 means," she said quietly. "I'm there when it matters." Davis's unseeing eyes stared upward. So young. A baby sister who'd never see her brother again. A mother who'd get a folded flag and a knock on the door. But 3 men lived who would have died. 3 Marines who'd go home to their families because Maya had chosen them over the mission, over revenge, over the walls that had kept her isolated for 3 years. Tors extended his hand formally. "I'm formally requesting you for my unit, Staff Sergeant, permanently." Maya shook it, feeling the strength in his grip, the respect in his eyes. Hicks grinned through his bandages. "Damn fine shooting back there, ma'am, damn fine." Martinez looked up from Davis, tears streaking his dust-covered face. "He talked about you, you know, Davis. Said it was an honor serving with Phantom 6. Said you were the best." Maya's vision blurred. He was a good Marine, they all are. The Black Hawk banked toward Fob Wolverine, leaving the mountains behind. Maya pulled out her phone, battered but still functioning. On the screen was the photo of her and Rachel, both young, both smiling, both believing they were invincible. "I kept my promise, Rachel," Maya whispered. "I was there when it mattered." The helicopter's door gunner offered her water. She accepted it, nodding thanks. Tors shared his rations. Hicks cracked a joke about concussions improving his vision. Martinez sat with Davis, keeping vigil for their fallen brother. And for the first time in 3 years, Maya felt something she'd thought was lost forever. She felt like part of a team. Phantom 6 wasn't just a call sign anymore. It was a promise that no matter how dark things got, no matter how impossible the odds, she'd be there for the people who needed her. Rachel would have been proud. As the sun set over the Hindu Kush, painting the mountains in shades of gold and crimson, Maya closed her eyes and finally let herself rest. She wasn't alone anymore. And she never would be again. The end.